Recently joining us now to talk more about Warren's wealth tax plan, Alex Brill, American Enterprise Institute resident fellow. Michael Linden is a fellow at the Roosevelt Institute. Let's talk, we can talk about just the wealth tax later, but gentlemen, can we just talk about the idea of mark-to-market taxes on assets, Alex, like capital gains? And actually, because Michael makes a point, and I don't know whether you disagree with this, Alex, that preferential treatment of capital has never been an effective way to get what we want in terms of investment. Do you buy that it doesn't really help to have preferential rates for capital versus income?
I disagree.
You do?
We've actually always had a preferential rate for capital gains. That itself doesn't make it the right answer. But the reason behind that is because I think policymakers have recognized that investors are making decisions based on their expected after-tax returns. The other thing to remember is this is the second time that corporate earnings would be taxed. They're taxed, obviously, at the corporate level. They're taxed again at the shareholder level. So we have this dual system, this double-track system, where taxes are applied twice on corporate profits. And that's another reason why we've always tried to keep that tax rate relatively low relative to the to ordinary income tax rates.
Michael, get this. Alex does not dismiss out of hand the notion of taxing things, marking them to market, because you think that when people just hold on to things forever, that actually gums up the system because that taxable event never comes. So you actually think there's some merit to that idea, Alex,
yeah,
for doing it? Yeah, at AEI?
Well, the mark-to-market idea is separate from the tax rate. I mean, obviously, they're related.
Right.
One of the problems with the capital gains tax structure is it encourages investors to hold on to assets that they would otherwise dispose of. And we call that the lock-in effect. The higher the tax rate, the stronger the lock-in effect. So mark-to-market, in theory, on paper, says, look, it doesn't matter. You're going to pay the tax whether you sell it or not, and there's an efficiency in that. But trying to figure out how to implement that, obviously how to implement that on assets that are difficult to value, that's almost impossible. Right. So now we're creating a distortion between traded assets and other assets. And then we should also remember what happens when the stock market goes down, because sometimes it does. All of a sudden, the government starts to write checks.
And the tax loss carry forward certainly aren't as valuable as the original. You're not going to recoup what you if your stock doubles and then it goes down 90%. You're never getting anyway. Michael, if you figure it's not preferential anyway to treat capital differently, then that's a kind of a moot point whether you mark to market or not.
Right. That's right. And look, the idea that that preferential tax treatment for capital is going to help us grow the economy and make things better for regular people. It's an idea that I understand its appeal. I certainly understand its appeal for people who are wealthy, who want to be the hero in their own economic story. But the real reality, the empirical reality we see is that there's no real relationship. I mean, it's the same basic argument that led us to cutting $1 trillion in corporate taxes over the last 2 years ago, and here we are 2 years later, and no appreciable difference in business investment, no increase in wages, no increase in jobs. We can try this over and over again. Let's cut taxes on capital. Let's cut taxes on capital, but at some point we've got to look at the actual facts and realize
you're
that's
actually
not,
making the
that's
case that
where,
those that corporate tax cuts have not found their way into the economy whatsoever.
There's no real evidence that they have. Look, the argument is, look, we'll cut taxes on capital, it'll increase investment, and that'll trickle down into productivity, which will eventually go to higher wages. And none of those links in the chain actually work. The very first link in the chain is broken. If you want to focus on productivity, if you want to get worker productivity, you've got to invest in workers. You've got to make sure that they're protected, that they have real power, they have education, they've got health care, and you have to have stable demand. You've got to have good, broad-based, stable demand. Income inequality in this country has gotten so bad that actually all the product innovation is heading towards people at the very top of the income spectrum, which means inflation is actually rising faster for people at the middle and the bottom than it is for the top. That's a distortion that's coming from income inequality itself. And so that's another good reason why it makes sense to increase taxes on capital,
Michael,
because that's where all the money is.
Then I guess Democrats can just run on how crappy the economy is, and I think we both know that's not going to be the case. And the biggest concern for Democrats is it's going to be tough in this economy And a lot of times an incumbent gets reelected when you've got 3.5% unemployment and start rising income in the middle. I mean, Alex,
rising income in the middle, like that's not happening. Job growth is actually down. Overall economic growth,
well, then,
1.9% is not
on how
anything.
bad the economy is.
I think that it will be I think it will be a real debate about how good the economy is right now.
Is the stock market really not at new highs either? Am I wrong about that?
Most Americans do not own even a single share of stock.
Well, they've got it in 401ks and other places.
No, even including.
But you can't look at. You can't just say up is down and down is up. I mean, there's some positive things that are happening. There
are some positive things, but they're mostly for rich people, and that's a part of the economy, but that's not the economy. The economy is regular people. It's everyday people who are trying to make ends meet, and for those people, it's actually not going so great.
Alex, do you see as the 3% gains we're seeing in wages? Anything good happening with the lower income or middle income people?
Michael's right on a couple things. He's right that education's important, and he's right that we want the economy to be good for everybody, not just for people at the top. I disagree with him with pretty much everything else that he said, because in fact, we do see that wages are rising faster for non-supervisory workers than they are for managers and executives. We do see almost everybody, basically everybody, has a job. And we do see that the economy is growing. And we did see a surge in investment after the tax cuts before the trade war really hit. And so I do think that the corporate tax reduction had the right effect in promoting investment in the U.S. economy. I think that our trade policy is undoing some of that, or a lot of that. That's a separate issue from taxes, but an important one for our macroeconomy. And I do see the economy is moving forward across a lot of industries, across a lot of states, and across a lot of stakeholders.
Okay.